3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the Christian Culture. This is Clint.
And this is Gordon.
And you just played me. I thought we were going to do that together.
Oh,
it's all right.
I just didn't know what we were doing.
It's all good. This is our first time back with just the two of us. We've done some guest episodes lately, which has been awesome.
It's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how have you been handling this cold? You're from the South originally.
Love it.
Oh.
I love it.
Great.
Like this cold. Like
yeah.
Last week or 2 weeks ago it was like cool.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like actually cold. Because this is how cold it actually gets in Georgia. I know I am from the South, but it would snow like once a year.
Okay.
Or really ice, just because it would be like this kind of cold, and then it would freeze. And I love it. I love layers. This is my third sweater today. Like not today. This is my third sweater today because I love changing into new sweaters. No,
I want to show off my sweater collection.
This is my third sweater of the week because it started on Tuesday, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So one of the things that blows my mind is when Texans say they love the cold. And I'm like, okay, how cold are you talking to? Oh, like 50s and 60s, like that's perfect. That's not really even that cold yet. But it's been 30s and 40s for the last couple of days. So, I mean, we're starting to get into that cold-ish. I've seen like pictures from my family and friends back home. It's like -7 degrees and a foot of snow already. So like, I'm so happy that I'm living down here. But,
I was playing best friend with some of the teens like last week or 2 weeks ago, and I did cold or hot. I think like what they prefer, and most of them raised their hand for cold. And I was like, why do you live here?
What are you doing?
Why are you in Houston?
Yeah, I do like this time of year though, because most of my nice clothes is actually it's cold weather clothes. So like you said, sweaters and scarves and stuff like that. So I don't really get to wear it except for a couple months out of the year. So I'm excited. This is good. And actually, the day before it got really cold, I was up at Todd Mission, Texas, for the Texas Renaissance Festival.
Oh yeah!
And that day it was actually in the like 70s. So
that's fun.
Yeah, but I was wearing my kilt as one does, and yeah, it was perfect weather because the whole day it was like between the 40s and 70s the whole time. It was great, and so it was good kilt weather. But I think it would have been miserable if it was in the 30s.
Growing up, did you guys always make the joke like, oh man, weather in Iowa is so unpredictable?
Oh my gosh, I've lived in a couple different places, but I feel like everyone in every region makes that same joke.
Yeah, because I saw like a comic about that about Houston, and I was like, that's true. And I was like, well, you could say that about Georgia too, because we would say that about Georgia.
The crazy thing is, it's just a different type of weather changes. So like here in Houston, it's almost always something to do with like rain,
right?
Or it'll go from 120 degrees down to 100 degrees,
right?
But in Iowa, it's more like it's going to rain one day, it's going to snow the next, and it's going to be sunny and 70 degrees the next day. So it's
70 degrees.
Right? I know. It's crazy. But every region has that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. Everyone just thinks it's themselves.
Yeah. Like, it's the worst here. It's so unpredictable. Well, yeah, weather is unpredictable.
Move somewhere else. It's the exact same thing.
If only there were people who had jobs that could tell us what the weather was going to be.
Yeah.
And be right.
Or if they were wrong,
what a day that would be.
Then they would have no repercussions.
Yeah. If all the raindrops were lemon gums.
Oh my gosh.
Drops.
What are you taking in right now?
Not much different than the last time we recorded, which I think I was telling you guys I was reading that papal document that I always forget the name of when I tell somebody.
I remember
Missio.
Yeah. Redemptoris Missio.
Redemptoris Missio. Correct. Which is great.
That was so funny. We struggled so much to pronounce that in the last episode.
And then Parasite, because there's like 3 movies that came out recently that I'm like, we're super hyped to see. That one, The Lighthouse, which I haven't seen yet, which is with the guy that played Green Goblin.
Oh, people
make fun from Boondock Saints.
They make fun of his name
Oh, I love him as an actor.
I can't remember.
Me
Oh my
neither.
gosh.
Anyways, it's him and then Robert Patterson. And it's like a black and white film. It's really weird.
It's a black and white film?
Yeah, like they filmed it in like actual old school black and white film. And there it's about two guys that live off in a deserted island because in a lighthouse alone. Because that's their job back in the day. They get to live there.
I think I saw something like an advertisement
like-
for that or trailer.
Eventually, like, are they going crazy? What's real? What's not? Because they're alone the whole time.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, because people always say
I haven't seen that yet.
Dafoe.
Chris saw it because we like to watch weird movies together, and all he had to say about it was because he's like, I'm not going to tell you anything else till you see it. And then on Sunday, I saw highly anticipated JoJo Rabbit, which was so good. Lizzie's apparently says it's probably one of her like in her top, like of all time.
Like top 5?
Maybe, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if I could say that, but I loved it. I mean, I love
We'll say it anyways.
Wakia Takiti. I don't know how to say his name. The guy that did Ragnarok.
Oh, yeah.
He's the director and plays Hitler.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Which, if you don't know what that movie's about, it's about a child in the Hitler Youth who's growing up like blindly, who like under the reign of Hitler, like wanting to be in the regime, and then his imaginary friend is Hitler.
His imaginary friend?
Yeah, like that's not really Hitler. That's his imaginary friend.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because he never actually meets Hitler. Dang. And then lo and behold, you find out it's not really a spoiler. It's in the trailer, but lo and behold, his mom is hiding a Jew in their house, and it's like, what do you do? It's a feel good movie.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. I heard he's also. My brother was texting me yesterday saying that he's also in the new Mandalorian TV show.
Mm-hmm.
On
He's
Disney
one of
Plus.
the. He's like a droid. He voices a droid.
Okay. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay.
I saw an article.
If you have Disney Plus, I was gonna
Yeah.
invoke co-host rights and
Did it just come out?
At the 12th.
Okay, because my sister was texting my entire family today, like, are we doing this? We going in on it? But I was actually reading an article about how Netflix, most things, are actually trying to figure out how to crack down on password sharing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
most places
that,
are.
like piracy was the thing like a few years ago, but now the new thing is password sharing, and that they're like they're looking at their revenue that they're missing based on people sharing passwords, and it's huge.
It's insane. Yeah. I think I was just talking to someone about this morning. I honestly think Disney Plus is going to revolutionize streaming, and streaming already has revolutionized TV. But within the first 2 days of the Disney Plus being released, they have over 10 million subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what they're doing is they're reaching out to all these other places. So they just got, what's the company that has The Simpsons?
ABC? No. Fox?
I think it's Fox.
I think it's Fox.
Yeah, I think it's Fox.
They have, yeah.
So they did a contract with them. Now they have everything from The Simpsons is now on Disney Plus too. So one of the things Disney Plus is doing really well is they're reaching out to all these different other major companies. Disney already has like everything, but now they're reaching into more everythings, and they're like powerhouse.
I know. Actually, I'm gonna pull this up real quick. My sister said in that text, because my mom was like, "What is this? Is this another monthly thing? I don't want to add more to my bill."
Then get rid of everything else.
Yeah,
but don't buy into the Disney giant at the same time.
She said, "Yeah, it's like Netflix, but with the whole Disney franchise, which is like everything: Marvel, Pixar, Disney Channel, Disney itself." And I just said, "LOL. That's what they want you to think. They've won."
Yeah,
and my mom just like laughed at that.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, me and Lizzie are super torn because we want it and it's cheap, but we don't want to support. Like, I hate Disney. I hate Disney.
I hate Disney as a company, but I gotta admit, like, I love most of their content. I know, you can hate me. It's okay.
No, it's fine. I mean, I do too.
It is hard though, because one of the main reasons why I dislike Disney as a company is they are huge supporters of Planned Parenthood and other abortion facilities, which is awful to begin with, and it really doesn't make sense to me because children are their main target audience too, and they're killing off their own target audience. So it doesn't make sense to me. That's one of the reasons why I'm torn.
I mean, they're what is it called? Oligopoly? Oligopoly.
Yeah.
And they're almost a monopoly.
Yeah.
Like, if they're actually, because of their streaming service, reaching out to other channels, then
they're basically taking
very
over.
Soon they'll be a monopoly.
Right, which is forcing Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those others to change how they do it or cease to exist. And so is it Netflix that just signed a deal with Nickelodeon, I think?
I don't know.
Someone just did. I hope it wasn't Disney, because then it's already over if we have Disney and Nickelodeon power teaming. But yeah, that's the sitch.
Now there's Apple Plus, which was already Apple TV, but they pretty much, those two have been trying to roll out at the same time. Anyways, what have you been taking in?
Oh my gosh. What have I been taking in? Actually, a lot of the stuff I've been taking in was from this weekend when I went to the Renaissance Festival. So going in, I told you and Joel last week, I've been listening to a lot of like Scottish folk music, which I still have been doing, and Irish folk music too, but mostly Scottish. And while I was up there, I was there for 2 full days. So I watched just about every show up there, and I watched the full armored combat. They have like knights in full armor, and they go at it. So that's a company. Checked them out a couple times. The Dublin Harpers. So it's a Celtic harp band.
That's amazing.
It was so cool. And they did a cover of the Cantina song from Star Wars. It was so cool. And then the Tartanics was another big one I listened to. So they're like a Scottish, it's like drums and bagpipes, but rock songs basically. And they also are the ones that do the music for the fireworks that night. And so they do the bagpipes shooting flames out of their, so all that cool stuff. I've still been crushing through Star Wars Clone Wars because I want to get through all of the main Star Wars canon before episode 9 comes out in December. So I've been trying to do that. And now that the Mandalorian's out, I'm even further behind. Catholic Answers Live Counsel of Trent by Trent Horn, who's one of the Catholic Answers apologists. Probably my favorite podcast right now that I'm listening to is Mysterious World with Jimmy Akin, who's another one of the apologists from Catholic Answers. But he has this podcast where they take mysterious things around the world, or like things that have happened, or mysterious beliefs, or mysterious things through scripture, stuff like that, and they take a look at it from a faith and a reason perspective. They look through all of the main arguments for what happened in that situation, and then they kind of walk through them in a non-biased or slightly non-biased way as much as you can. He does a really good job of staying in the middle. He does express like, this is what I believe, but this is the like, what's the term? The iron or steel arming an argument. I don't remember. Steel man. That's what it is. When when you take an argument and you give its best argument for that thing. So he does a really good job of doing that for everything, and it's really, really cool. So the most recent one that I listened to was on this explosion that happened in Siberia that wiped out this landmass the size of I want to say it's like, I think it was like Ohio or something like that. It was like some American state, and no one knows what caused it. But what happened, it blew up windows and like shattered glass all through Russia, which is a huge country, but no one can pinpoint what happened. So there's that. Talked about the Great Pyramids of Giza. Talked about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I'm gonna have to start because I am like I don't have any podcasts anymore. Okay. Mostly because the ones that I haven't listened to just aren't like clicking with me. Like the Gomer's other one and the one I started you on to start with this. I don't really listen to them. And so I started listening to actually Drunks and Dragons, which is now Greetings Adventurers from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I've been listening to that and Art of Manliness because the podcast that I actually listen to, like I'm up to date with, and they don't come out with a bunch. And ARCs stopped coming out with podcasts for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
That's great because I need another podcast.
It's
like
really, really good.
one that's like going to keep my attention.
Yeah. And part of it is kind of academic. I mean, Jimmy Akin is brilliant. He's like one of the smartest guys I've ever listened to. So I would recommend it to anyone. And then the last thing is I've been listening to the musician Rita West. She's a Catholic musician. So I found her a couple weeks ago and just been listening to a lot of her music. So
nice.
It's good stuff.
You should check out a band called Off Kilter.
Off Kilter?
Yeah.
Is that another kilt joke?
It is. Yeah. So it's like off kilter, like the word, but they all wear kilts. They were in Epcot in Disney, and they were in Ireland, and they're like a Irish rock band, but they also do like Irish ballads with bagpipes and stuff.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Since I was repping my kilt all weekend, I did some research because when I first bought it, I didn't look at the tartan, the color scheme, because each one typically represents like a family or something or a business or whatever. And I just got one that I liked that kind of matched my favorite colors and stuff. And I just realized it is called the Black Watch tartan, which is one of the most popular ones now, but is based off of some Highland military group from the 1700s that supposedly does not get along well with the Irish. And so my plans to wear it for St. Patrick's Day
It's a terrible idea.
is really bad because apparently a true Irishman will jump you if they recognize those colors. So yeah, I might be able to get away with it in the States.
Just wear it inside out.
Just, it's the same colors all the way through. So I need to find an Irish kilt now.
Yeah.
I'll just go get like a straight.
Is that a
or something.
thing? I don't know if there is Irish kilts.
Sure there are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's like the Ancient Order of Hibernians.
Sure.
Are you familiar with them?
No.
It's I think they're a Catholic group actually, but it's Irish Catholics, if I remember correctly.
So like priests with kilts?
My priest back home is an Irish Catholic, and he's part of the
That's awesome.
AOH. So yeah, but I think theirs is like straight green or something. But yeah, there's different Irish ones as well.
Okay.
So
Clint, do you love this country?
yeah,
So you like bald eagles?
I don't think I am obsessed with America as much as Texans are.
Yeah.
I'm also not obsessed with Texas as much as Texans are.
The Labes.
Or the Labes, yeah.
What about jelly? Do you like jelly?
I love jelly. Peanut butter jelly
great.
is my favorite thing.
We're not going to be talking about either of those things today. Instead, we're going to be talking about Peanut Butter Falcon.
What a transition. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, so good. So good.
So another thing I've been taking in, I rewatched recently. Rewatched recently the Peanut Butter Falcon, a movie I've mentioned on this podcast, and we are now able to crack it open as a topic.
Let's do it.
This is a movie with Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson, which we were just talking about, and then his name's Zach Godin something. And Zach is a real person. That's his character name in the show, or in the movie, I should say. But that's also who he is. And essentially how this movie came about was that the two directors that wrote the movie and directed it, I don't know if they wrote it or directed it or what, but the two people that were highly involved in the movie were at this camp for kids with Down syndrome, which is Zach has Down syndrome. And they were talking to Zach, and he was talking to them about how when he grows up, he wants to be an actor. And they were like, ooh, like you might want to like change that to something else because people don't make movies for characters with Down syndrome, and like you're not going to really fit another role. You can't act as if you don't have Downs, so like do something else. And he just looked at him and was like, well, why don't you guys make it? So they walked and studied and breathed Zach's life for like 2 years, and they wrote this movie, which is fictional, but a lot of the things, like the name itself, are like true events that happened. So like Zach at some point came up with the name Peanut Butter Falcon, and they went with it. So
I'm reading some notes on this right now, and it says most of the script is built around like his hopes and dreams that he expressed to them during like this time. So that's kind of cool.
And so it's funny because I wanted to talk about, there was a book I read a while back that I mentioned on the podcast called Tattoos on the Heart, with Father Gregory Boyle. He does gang ministry.
Okay.
And his thing is kinship. Like, that's his big thing, kinship, which is literally just like being authentically real and walking and living and breathing with other people.
Yeah.
And there's a story that he tells, which I'll just summarize, but he usually, when he has a speaking gig, he'll take 2 gang members that he knows can go. And he takes this one guy named Mario to one of them, and Mario shares his story. And then he walks off and they start applauding. And he walks up to Father Boyle, and they'll call him G, because his name's Gregory. And so he's like, "Hey, G, they're really clapping for you." And he's like, "No, man, that's for you." And like, it suddenly like dawned on him. And the one thing he always says, like, immediately he was returned to himself in that moment. And that's like his phrasing all the time. And then later they have this Q&A, and he's like, "I want you to come up with Q&A with me." And a lady comes up and asks him a question. He's like, "Hey, you say you're a father and your son and daughters are starting to reach their teenage years. What wisdom do you impart on them? What advice do you give them?" And he thinks really slowly and starts to get choked up. And he's like, I just don't want them to turn out like me. And she says, "I hope your kids do turn out like you." And he starts crying, and people start applauding. And once again, he says, "And that woman had returned him to himself." And that's what I think this movie is. This movie is about people just returning each other to themselves. And that's what actually filming the movie did. So I watched some interviews before I got to see the movie and afterwards. And Shia LaBeouf talked about, usually he comes into a movie and he's like, "I'm a method act. I'm going to do these things. I've done this before." And he gets all, but he couldn't do that with this movie because Zach is Downs. And he would like start to do that. And then Zach would just like say something that wasn't scripted, and he had to run with it. And he just broke Shia LaBeouf. And he said he's so grateful for it because it's returned him to himself.
Yeah. I don't know much about this movie, but I do remember seeing like a short interview with Shia LaBeouf, and he talked about how this like returned him to like his start in acting. And his like roots and his desire to act. Right.
And so when I say that, like when we talk about us and our story, returning to yourself means like we're technically we're talking about identity and like who you are really. Not like I am this great actor, I am an artist, I am I was in Transformers and now I have a beard and like a man bun. It's like no, like I have a passion to...
That sounds like you.
I'm talking about Shia LaBeouf. I know I have a passion to like do something that's beautiful. I have a passion to do something that people are going to enjoy and love and share. And for us, it's like I have a passion to grow in Christ and who I am as a son or daughter of God.
Well, some of it too seems like positive humility in a way, where it does come down to identity, right? Because we've talked about humility on here before, and the definition that I've used is knowing who God is and knowing who you are, right? And knowing that relationship.
Actually, I just put in parentheses humility.
Oh, really?
Right next to what I was talking about, and I didn't look up until,
Oh, great. Well, we're on the same page then. So if we know who God is and we know who we are and we understand that relationship between us, humility has this idea of recognizing, yes, we are small in comparison to God, but it also means recognizing when we do something that is positive and what is good. And so it sounds like with this gang member and with Shia LaBeouf and the other actors, they're recognizing who they are, not this false perception of who they've put themselves off to be. So like we hear in gang stories all the time, people present themselves in a certain way to seem stronger or more powerful than they are, so they can protect themselves. Same thing in acting. Your job is to pretend to be someone you're not.
Yeah.
And so in both of these situations, it sounds like when they're returning to themselves, they're returning to who God made them to be and a better understanding of what that is.
And who they see those around them to be.
Yeah.
Like that was, originally I'm sure Shia came in this movie not really caring much about Zach. Just like, I'm going to do this movie.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's like, "What are we doing now, Zach? Like, how's this scene going to play out? You run it. Like, you lead, I'll follow." Yeah. So to kind of start really about the movie, we have 3 characters: Zach, Tyler, who is Shia's character, and then Eleanor, who is Dakota Johnson.
Okay.
And one thing that you always like to do, so I tried to do it, was look up the meanings of those names.
Yeah.
Tyler, I found nothing, unless you know something about Tyler. But Zach means the Lord has remembered. And I think in the context we're talking about, like, even in his like Down syndrome, or in the state of like where even now, I think what's the country? Iceland, Greenland, where like
what are you talking about?
That like Downs is a disease where they can just they just kill them.
Oh, I think it's Iceland.
Yeah,
there's a couple of Scandinavian countries that.
And so it's like a group of people with this thing that some of the world is just forgetting, like turning a blind eye and just forgetting about. But Zach literally means the Lord has remembered. Mm-hmm. And then Eleanor means bright or shining one.
Interesting. Okay.
Did you look up Tyler?
No, I was looking up Eleanor because El in Hebrew is God. So I was wondering if there's anything there, but it looks like it's a Greek root. So
did you get the same thing, bright or shining one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I got.
That's what I found. So Zach is a person with Down syndrome. You find out right away in the beginning, he's living in, what's that called? An old folks home? I always say that, but that's not what it's called. That's
a retirement home.
A retirement home because he has no family. And
did his parents die, or do they explain it, or no?
They do explain it later on. They left him.
Oh, okay.
And the government had there was nothing they could do, so they put him there to figure it out.
Okay.
And he's stuck there. Like, literally, he can't leave. And he says that in the beginning, like, they're old, I'm young, why am I here? And so in the very beginning, the first scene is he gets this old lady to pretend to choke on chocolate pudding so he can bolt for the exit and tries to leave and just gets tackled in the front scene. He's escaped 2 times in 1 week, so he's now considered a flight risk. And Eleanor works there. So you come to find out later she's a widow. She married and he passed away, so now she has no one. She has no family. And apparently they allude to the idea that she has a lot of money, and I think it's because of the death. But she's still working as a volunteer at this retirement home. And so she's become very close and probably the closest friend to Zach. She carries guilt and all these things, probably because of everything. And then there's Tyler, who we meet, and his brother passed away, his older brother, his only person left in his family. He carries guilt because he was there when it happened. He kind of blames himself, and he's like doing illegal things, like not like highly legal, but like he's stealing crab traps of another company. And so he's causing a lot of trouble because he used to work for one, but he lost his license. So he doesn't have no job, doesn't have a family. So those are your 3 characters.
Okay. I can see where this is going, I think. And based off the names, I think it fits. Yes,
totally. And so really how I broke this up is just going through the movie of how each person returned to themselves. So first, how does everybody meet? Okay. Well, Zach is bound to his room. The old man in his room ends up helping him escape through the window.
These old people sound awesome. They're just like helping this dude try to escape.
It's great because they put, right after he escapes, they put like metal bars on the window.
Yeah.
And the old guy used to be like an engineer, and so he puts like cloth, and then with like a pole for more leverage is just spinning it, and he's literally bent the bars with like bed sheets. And then he gives Zach like soap, and he's like, put this all over your body. He's like wearing nothing but tighty whities, and he's like, you should slide right through. And he does. He falls out, and he just starts running in the middle of the night with nothing but his underwear.
Oh, this is so funny.
And then he hides on the boat of Tyler's crab boat.
Okay.
Which, for reference, looks like the swamp. It's a swamp boat, but without the big fan.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those like underbelly boats.
Yeah.
And
flat bottom.
Then the people that he stole the crabs come and like beat up Tyler. And then Tyler is in his mad rage state, decides to burn all of their equipment. And then they see, and he's running, so he jumps on the boat, and they jump on a boat, and there's a chase scene, and then he hides. And that's when he stops and he's hiding, Zach like starts to throw up because he was like laying down under a cloth. And that's when you see they meet. He tries to like leave him, but then decides not to. And this whole time, Tyler watches this video when he was at the retirement home about the oh, I should have wrote that down. The saltwater redneck, who is his favorite wrestler of all time, and it's a training video.
You mean Zach watched this?
Zach did.
Okay.
Did I say Tyler?
You
I meant
said
Zach.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zach watched the saltwater redneck, and it's a video teaching him how to do the atomic throw, where you like lift someone over your head and throw them. And he tells there's like a wrestling school and this whole thing. So Zach's like, I want to go to that wrestling school. So reluctantly at first, but eventually figures out, like, Tyler's like, I can't live here anymore. I need to leave because the whole town's looking for me. Because the fire he started that was small spread and he burnt down the whole dock. So now he's in like legal trouble. So he's like, I'm going to Florida. That's here. What you say this thing is here. It's along the way. I'll take you.
Are you following me? Maybe we could be friends and buddies, bro dogs, and chill. Have a good time.
So the wrestling school's in Aiden?
Yes.
One long road leads all the way down. I'll drop you there then.
And it quickly becomes a lot of people said, like a Tom Sawyer type film, like Huckleberry Finn mostly. And that's what they do. They just start traveling. And obviously Eleanor starts looking for him, and eventually they meet up, and like she gets mad and she's going to take him back. But then Zach, while they're talking privately, takes her car keys and just throws them in the ocean. And so now she has to travel with them. And that's what she does. So first we have Carol, who is the old man that helps free Zach. And when he gives him the stuff, like the soap, Zach says, Carol, you are my best friend, and you are invited to my birthday party. And he goes, "Aw, thanks, man. That's it right there. Friends are the family you choose." And that's kind of just the one quote I have about like how Carol helps return Zach back to himself, in the sense of like, you might not have anyone and you're stuck here, but like, that's it. Like, you have friends, and those are people you get to choose, and they'll become family. And I think the idea of choice is really important, because I'm sure you and I as youth ministers, we talk about environment with our kids a lot. And like, I had friends I shouldn't have been friends with. And
Same.
And going back to even to the gang, I listened to another podcast from The Art of Manliness, and he's listening to a guy who used to be in the mob, like the mafia. And he talks about how like the big sell in gangs and mafia is they sell it as a family. Like you're welcomed into this family, but it's like this false type of, like, you're protected and you have people, but you also like owe them stuff.
Yeah. And you're trapped.
Right. Yeah. And then he escapes, he runs, and then Tyler starts like, well, stopping there, do you have anything? I know it's kind of all, this whole movie is going to be sort of self-explanatory, but.
Yeah, I think I see where it's going, and most of what I want to say, I think, is coming up. I think you did hit on a good point there of understanding who you surround yourselves with, especially going back to the names. I mean, we have, well, I don't want to give away too much what I want to say in a little bit, but with Zach, meaning God remembers, right?
Yes.
Or something along the lines.
Yes, along those lines. The Lord has remembered, I think, something.
Okay, yeah. So with that, based off of what you brought up in the beginning with remembering ourselves, right, and being brought back into ourselves, I think there's going to be something to that, where just like how the real Zach affected Shia LaBeouf, I think there's going to be something where Zach helps lead into the others remembering who they are.
Yeah.
And with Eleanor being the light or the shining one or whatever, I think there's going to be something in here where she is the light of Christ to the group. And so just recognizing that in this moment of him choosing to do something good, Tyler, I'm talking about, when he chooses to do something good by bringing Zach on this trip, he's also choosing to go into a community, even though he doesn't know what that means yet. And depending on what happens next, we'll find out. I think choosing that community is something that's going to change him for the better. And that's something we need to keep in mind with our own lives. And like you've already said, you've had communities in your life that have been bad. And I think a lot of the times we feel that same mentality of the gangs, but to a lower extent with our friends.
Right.
Right. When I leave a friend group, I don't feel like I'm going to be killed. Right. So it's not the same.
Yeah.
But there's something to it where we feel like we will be socially killed if we leave a friend group, you know? And I talk to teens about this all the time when they feel surrounded by groups. They know they're doing stuff that they don't want to do, and they're feeling pressured into doing stuff. I say, if you talk to them and they're not willing to respect your beliefs and what you want to do here, then you need to cut them off. And you can see in the teen's face how terrifying that is. And I've been in that position before where I had to cut off my freshman year of college. I had to cut off some friends who I thought were really good, and then turned out they were super not good for me. And I had to cut them off. And I knew by doing so, I was going to be left without a community for a while. And that's scary. But also in the long run, at least from my own experience, because I did that, I was able to find my best friends who I'm still friends with today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so by cutting off the bad, it's kind of like surgery, you know?
Yeah.
When or you have like a disease or something, sometimes it's gonna hurt to cut off whatever you need to get rid of, but in the end you're gonna feel a lot better when it's gone, and you can actually heal because of that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what I'm looking at here with this community and choosing the friends. He's unknowingly entering into a community, which I think he's going to end up choosing.
They all have open wounds right now that they're slowly healing from.
Yeah. And so I think, I'm just making predictions, I think this is going to happen where we see the community come together, where they have to have the choice, where they're presented with a choice to actually choose this community for themselves, where right now they're kind of forced together.
Yeah.
But they're going to choose it.
Yeah. And before I go into this next thing, they're walking, and at first Zach is annoying Tyler because he's like, Tyler, like, why? My feet hurt, Tyler, on all these things. And so he sets some ground rules. He runs to the store he doesn't have like any money, but he runs to the store to just get some things. He comes back and he has pants, and he gives him a shirt, so he clothes them. And then he's like,
he's still in his
the whole time. The whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Which actually, Sarah wanted me to put this in the podcast, where there's a scene where he's like, there's the store, stay here. Do you have any money? And he's like, no, I don't have any pockets. And then he gives him like cargo pants and a shirt. I think it's his own, but he clothes him. Okay. And then he's like, okay, here's the rules. First rule, don't slow me down. Second rule, I don't remember the second rule, something like that. But then he starts putting the backpack on him. He's like, you're going to carry your own weight. And you immediately see like verse where he was in the retirement home, like Tyler's not treating him as someone who can't do something. Mm-hmm. He's just treating him like, if you're going to do this and you're going to help me, and you got it.
Rule number 1, don't slow me down. Rule number 2, I'm in charge. Hey, what's rule number 1?
Party?
No, not party.
No. It's so funny. But then another thing is like Zach can't swim. Okay. And there's a scene where they're trying to cross the river, so he just like inflates everything and puts them, and he like ties it to himself, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna swim across, you hold on. And I start swimming, and then a shrimp boat starts to come, and they almost get run over. And so like Tyler starts swimming a whole bunch and like pulls him in close, like real fast, and barely misses him. And then Zach gets up, puts the backpack on, and starts walking while Tyler's like heaving on the shore. And he's like,
rule number 1.
And Tyler's like, Zach's like, come on, let's go. But
That's
then
funny.
as they're chilling at a camp and they're not doing anything, they're just kind of bored, Tyler goes out in the water and like waves him and starts teaching him how to swim. And then they're sitting there that night with the fire, just sitting there, and Zach starts like, makes this evil laugh. He's like, "Wah!" And he's like, I want to be a professional wrestler, and I am a bad guy. And Tyler's like, why do you want to be the bad guy? And he's like, because my family left me. And he's like, that doesn't make you a bad guy. Good guys get left too, Zach. And about no silly laugh or wearing black or eyeshadow and
Oh, yeah!
has nothing to do with that. Has to do with what's in here, what's in your heart. And you have a good guy heart. Can't do about it. It's just who you are. You're the hero. And then Zach's like, well, I can't be the hero because I have Down syndrome. He's like, what's that got to do with your heart? Who told you that? He's like, coaches, teachers. Your coach? What'd your coach say? I am retarded. Your coach said that? Probably your coach. Your team ever win anything? And then Zach kind of like shakes his head. Like, no. He's like, nope. So, you ain't gonna never do. That's all right. You can't be everything. You ain't going to be no professional basketball player. You ain't going to dunk no hoops. Probably ain't going to be an Olympic swimmer. You sink like a stone because you're all muscle. Muscle sinks. Today when you pulled me up out of that water, you almost pulled my arm right out of its socket. Most grown folk I know don't even have that kind of strength. You're strong, Zach. F your coach.
Shia LaBeouf has a heart.
So this is what I titled as Tyler returning Zach to himself. Because Zach identifies as a Down syndrome. Zach identifies as someone who can't do something. He must be a bad person.
Well, this is what our society says, though, too. You know, like you were mentioning before, Iceland or whatever country it was. But the same thing is happening in other countries, too. Just not to the same extent. Like, it happens in the U.S. Now that we have the ability to see a lot of health or potential health risks and stuff like that, people are choosing to abort their children ahead of knowing, right? And a lot of the times the predictions are not even real. It's a chance of things happening. And they choose to abort it because, well, it's going to be hard for them. They're not going to have a life that's good enough. And what Shia LaBeouf's Tyler is saying right now is, you are good enough.
Yeah.
Don't let everyone else tell you you're not good enough just because you're different.
He's like, you're not going to do this,
Right.
but I'm not going to do that.
I can't do that either. You're talking about playing basketball. I can't even jump.
But you're stronger than I am.
Right.
And it's true. You see it in the movie. He's super strong.
Yeah. And so just because the person has different gifts or maybe they struggle in different areas doesn't mean that they don't have value. And I think you have a good point there that he's returning him to himself in that way of recognizing who he is.
Yeah. And even telling him, like, there's nothing that you can say about yourself that's going to make you a bad guy because I know you're a good guy. Like, I'm sorry. Even if you want to be a bad guy, you can't.
Yeah.
Because your heart is good. And then in that same conversation, Zach has a chance to return Tyler to himself because he goes, Tyler, who are those people on the boat? And he's talking about they were being chased earlier when they first met.
Yeah.
And he goes, on the boat, that's Duncan and Rat Boy. They are good guy or bad guy? Bad guy. Tyler, are you the good guy or a bad guy? It's like, I don't know what you think. You are a good guy. And you see Tyler smile and then think like as a flashback going back to his brother. And that's when you learn that they're hanging out one night and they were drinking and he was the one driving home and his brother was asleep and then he fell asleep at the wheel. And that's all you see. You don't see the crash or anything, but you just see him like fall asleep and then the flashback's gone. You never go back to it again, but you can easily assume he was the one driving and that's the reason why he died.
Yeah.
So he's like, he honestly, when he says, I don't know, he honestly doesn't know because that happened. And then since then, he's not been doing anything good with his life. But Zach sees it. Zach's like, no, you're a good guy.
This is actually something I talked to my middle school kids about last night when we had ministry. And we were talking about how what we identify ourselves with and what we do isn't our true identity, and it doesn't change who we are. And I think that's kind of what Tyler's falling into right now is he's blaming himself for what happened to his brother, and maybe it was his fault, but that doesn't change who he is or the fact that he has value. In the same way that it doesn't change that Zach has value either,
right?
The way that he was born,
right?
And I think that's another lie that we tell ourselves, right? I'm not worth being loved,
yeah,
because I've done X, Y, and Z.
I think you and I struggle with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and this is part of our conversation.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to us too.
I know.
You know? But like, we've all done stupid stuff in our lives. Period. Like unfortunately, that's part of our fallen nature as humans. But that doesn't mean that we're not worth being loved. And like you said, I'm saying that to myself too. So that's something we need to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks,
and
Tyler.
Then,
thanks, Zach.
Yeah, I know. And then they're moving along, and they encounter this guy who they're going to steal a boat from, but they don't. He's blind, but he's like, "Are you guys God-fearing people?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Good." And then they flash to a scene, and they're sitting on the side, and he's in the river. And I have this quote, just because I love it, but also there's something to it. He's like, "There's sheep in this world, and there are wolves in this world. And I know that you two boys are just two fleece-wearing, weary travelers who lost their way.
Neither some like Cajun dude or what?
Yeah, they're not. You think they're in Louisiana, but they're actually in like South Carolina, going down to Florida.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, neither one of you are wolves, just sheep astray from his flock. And I can't have you boys running off here with your hands all dirty and everything, because a wolf might hunt you down just by the smell of your past sins. I wouldn't want no wolf to get a hold of you, because that would be an awful sight. So we're going to clean you up right with a baptism. And Zach goes, what's a baptism? And Tyler just looks at him and goes, it's like swimming. And then he goes, this is the first day of the rest of your life. Nothing can touch you now, under the grace of the Lord. Let all the wolves of your past be laid to rest. And it's like a real silly scene, but considering what we know about the characters, it's also really, like, I think what led up to that point to the rest of the movie, like, it's kind of important. Like, it's a point of you know, the literary thing of water, like, changing a character. And that's when the only person that actually gets baptized is Zach. He comes up. But yeah.
I think this also plays into what we've been talking about with returning to yourself, right?
And the choices we can make, like choosing your friends, choosing to be a wolf or a sheep.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, all three of the main things we talked about. And then also, so returning to yourself, choices that you make, and your identity lying in something other than your past. Because he's talking about your past wolves, right? That have been chasing you down. And recognizing that your identity is a child of God, and he's being baptized into that family as a child of God. Yeah. And so I think that's a beautiful kind of tie into all of that too.
Yeah.
So.
And then right after that, this was a really cool scene. They're floating together, and Zach just puts his hand on Tyler, and he goes,
Tyler, I'm going to give you all of my wishes for my birthday.
And Tyler just starts to cry, and he says, thank you, and just like begins to cry. And like that's it for the scene. But like this whole time, he keeps saying to other people, you're invited to my birthday party. You're invited to my birthday party. And this is the first time he was like, for my birthday, like, I want you to have all my wishes. And Zach knows nothing about Tyler. Besides, he's just like, you're a good person.
Yeah.
And then right after that, they're hanging out. And he's been sort of training him to be a professional wrestler, because that's what he asked. And he was like, all right, you know how to do push-ups? Let's do that. And they finally drink this like moonshine they got earlier on, and they're drinking together and they're hanging out. And he's like, you know what you need? You need to change your name. Like, what's that guy you like? And he's like, the saltwater redneck. He's like, yeah, he wasn't born with that name. He gave himself that name. You need an alter ego. What do you want it to be? And he's like, Falcon. He's like, all right, hold on. He goes and gets some sticks, like makes him like some wings. And he's like, say it. I am the Falcon. He's like putting dirt on his face. And the only thing to have to eat is peanut butter. And he's like, I need peanut butter. And he starts like smearing peanut butter on his face. And then he says, I am the Peanut Butter Falcon.
Falcon! Peanut Butter Falcon!
And I think this ties into the baptism, but I was thinking about like the name change.
Yeah.
Scripture.
I love this. Yeah.
And like when, was it Abraham? So
Abram to Abraham. We have Simon to Peter, Saul to Paul. I mean, there's other ones.
So he's given a new name. It's an alter ego for his wrestling, but that idea of he's a new person now. He's been baptized, and now he's got Tyler, and he knows he's a wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, whenever God gives someone a new name in Scripture, it always shows that they have like encountered Him in a radical way. So happening right after his baptism, that makes sense. That's why we have the quote unquote Christian names or confirmation names too. It's the same thing. And then, so you've encountered Christ in a radical way, and He has changed you and sent you on a mission, right? And so, I don't know if that ties in, but that's what it usually means.
Yeah. And then we have Eleanor, we haven't really talked about because she doesn't meet him until later, but she, like I explained earlier, has to join them on this journey. And Eleanor is changed by Tyler, who's someone that she would have thought was like, stay away and all these things. And she really is drawn out of her comfort zone hanging out with him. And there's a scene where they're hanging out on the raft, and she's like, hey, do you want something to eat, Zach? And he's like, no, I'm not really hungry. He's like, I know, but you should like have something. And Tyler's like, don't do that. And he's like, I got like an apple and stuff. And he's like, I don't want to eat. And it's kind of like awkward. And so Tyler's like, I have an idea. How about you practice your training? Like, let's see how long you hold your breath. So he like dunks his head in the water. And as soon as he does that, he starts talking to Eleanor, and he's like, you better stop calling him a retard. And she's like, I've never called anyone that word. He's like, when people say he's a retard, what they're really saying is he can't do some shit they can do. So you might not be saying the word retard. I'll give you that. But sure are making him feel retarded. They ain't gonna help his life. And so he's trying to like let her know, like, you're pampering him too much. Like, don't do that. And then she comes back and I'm like, you've got some real nerve talking to me like that. Do you even know what I do? I've spent the last 2 years of my life volunteering to hold people's hands as they pass away. I talk to them, I feed them, I change their clothes, I put them to bed, and I'm the last person they see. Yeah, maybe he shouldn't be in a retirement home, but I did not choose that for him. But that's what happened, and now I'm doing the best I can. And they kind of make a mutual ground. But I think it's real interesting because she does see how Zach is, like, when Tyler lets Zach do something, he can do it. And eventually she does start to see, like, it works. Yeah. And she hears stories of them, like, being shot at and doing these things that she, like, freaks her out. But he's alive and he's fine. And then one of the last things I was going to touch on, we can kind of wrap up without really telling much about the end of the movie, is Zach returning Eleanor to herself. There's a scene where they decide to take a break and there's a rope swing and they're going to, like, swing and stuff. And so they both do it and they're both waiting for Eleanor to do it. And Eleanor's, like, kind of scared. And Zach just says, it's easy. Just hold on and let go. And Zach's just teaching how to swing. But there's a song by this band called The Classic Crime who have a lot of Christian themes in their songs. And it's a song called Hold On and Let Go. And that's all they say in the song is hold on and let go. And I think there's something spiritual about that when we sit with that. Like, what do we hold on to and what do we need to let go of? And in that scene, that's what I think is important. It's like, it's easy. All you gotta do is hold on and let go. And there's a lot of things she needed to let go of her past, but also of, like, what she thought of Tyler, and also how she thought she needed to treat Zach. And if she just held on to that moment, this fun they're having, which they do, they're splashing each other, and it's just like a familial love you can see in that scene. Yeah. What do you got? And then we can wrap it on up.
I don't know. I think I already gave away all my predictions. So without knowing what actually happens, I kind of want to just leave it there. Cool. Because I think you hit on each of the kind of returning to themselves aspects. So, yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap it up, it's those main three concepts, right? So recognizing who we are and who God is. So the humility and identity, the choice of our relationships, and returning to who we are within that. I think those are the three main things. So challenge, I guess, is what's next, right? We can build around those three things. Obviously, it's what we're going to have to do. Yeah, so let's start with the community, right? Yeah. So look at the community that you're surrounded with. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your friends. Obviously you can't choose all of those things, but look at who you're surrounding yourself with. Is it someone who's building you up? Is it someone who is going to make you a better person? Or is it someone who's going to bring you closer to God? And if the answer is no, then maybe let it go. And that doesn't mean, like, everyone has to be like an ultra Catholic that you surround yourself with. But there are people in our lives who bring us the opposite direction, right? And we need to be able to let those people go if that's where we're being called to go, you know? So make sure that you have a community that's there to support you, because we become who we're surrounded by, essentially. And we're strengthened by those who stand with us. So I think that's the first challenge. And the second challenge, I think, is to return to yourself. And I think the first and third part there, so knowing who you are and who your identity is. So maybe the challenge, I did an activity with a different parish a couple weeks ago where I asked the teens to meditate on the words in Scripture that God gives us. So there's a lot of them. So it's like beloved, chosen, son, daughter, friend, different words like that. So maybe the challenge can be to look at what Christ calls you, because that's where your identity is. You can only be given, like, a name by someone who owns you or made you. That's the only person who has the right to give you a name, which is why our parents can name us and why God can name us, but no one else really can. And so let's do that. Let's look at what does God call us? Let's meditate on that. And by looking at those names that God gives us, let's return to ourselves and who we are.
Reminds me of the confirmation retreat we just had this past Saturday. And we had a time where instead of a talk, it was like 3 different breakouts. And the three different breakouts were community, identity. The last one was like media and culture. So
Did you give the media and
I
culture?
did.
Nice.
But it was like identity because that's you, community because that's everyone else around you, and the media and culture because that's anything that you can surround yourself with, to take in, consume, and that's everything. And so if you look at those things and kind of just like essentially a challenge of like seeing what are things you need to kind of let go or loosen your grasp on, and what are things that you need to hold on tighter to, strengthen that grasp on.
I like that.
And what's your wrestler name?
What's my wrestler name?
Oh, well, you can tell me, but I meant like, tell us what your wrestler name would be.
Oh, I mean, I actually wrestled.
Yeah, but that's different.
I am. Anyone who knows me knows that
We're
I'm
talking about
super
cool wrestling,
anti WWE, like all of those.
even
fake
though
wrestling.
it's like RP, like it's role playing.
Yeah, I can't stand it. So I refuse to have a fake wrestler name. You can use my confirmation name. It's St. Matthew.
Thieve wants to learn how to wrestle.
Thieve is Gordon's D&D character. So, all right, shout outs.
I don't know. I didn't ever prep this part, and I always I don't know.
It's all right. So the only shout outs I can think of are the people that I went to the Renfest with. So first off, the Matlers, who I know listen, and then some parishioners who I hung out with while I was there, the Prohaska family. So that's pretty cool to see them.
Nice.
Those are my shout outs.
Sweet. Shout out Rachel. She asked about the podcast today.
Rachel Meinzer?
Yeah. She's like, I haven't listened in a while, but, and then, I don't know. Yeah, other people. Thank you, everybody.
Cool. You guys are awesome. Make sure you guys are reaching out to us. You can check us out on our website, which is thechristianculture.com. You can tweet at us at ontheadventure2. That's our handle. Facebook. We now have all of our, I shouldn't say all of our episodes. Most of our episodes are on YouTube, and we're working on putting more up there as well. So you can check out all of the newer ones, at least, on our YouTube channel, which is The Christian Culture. And then Facebook, The Christian Culture.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you guys are reaching out to us. We want to do some prize giveaways for people who reach out to us, but we're not going to do it unless we have people reaching out to us more often. So we want to be able to do that stuff for you guys. And if you are interested in supporting the show for anywhere from $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever, you can do that. And we are working on putting out more exclusive content for the patrons. So all of our interviews that we're doing with special guests and stuff, we're doing extra episodes just for our patrons. So make sure you check that out. Patreon.com/The Christ in Culture. You can find all that stuff at our website as well as our blog.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to write for the blog, let us know. We're looking for people to help write different stuff.
Yep.
So with that, thanks for joining us on the adventure this week, and we will see you next time.